All right, I have the first question for the team. Who has the most grandchildren? It's on. I can hear you.
1 for 1 so far. No news through yet.
No news through about the baby girl?
No
Not
word
yet? All right. Who has written short stories in the past?
Short stories that you can print. Yes.
Yes?
Ones that you can't print, I've keep to myself.
Oh, yeah? All right, JJ, you can tell us also about your writing experiences, maybe.
Writing experiences.
Have you
and
written short stories?
Yeah, so I had some article written about the three main foundations, which I believe nowadays are obvious for the BIM implementation in the company. So it's about people, documents, and technology. I've been writing something that you are obviously aware of, that these three needs to go together and none of them needs to be the first one or the last one.
Right. We have a question, please. Am I supposed to be doing the mic? I don't know how this works. Here we come.
Hi. So we're trying to implement more BIM and more training, and we're trying to bring our company forward. What kind of balance would you kind of recommend for training versus work? I know you can train while you work, is probably the best way, but just the actual focused training, how to fit that into the working day, and how we're going to need to bring this to the management to say, well, we want this much of their time and that's going to be effective.
That's funny that you mentioned that. We were actually just talking about that this morning. There's a few ways. A lot of companies, they like to do, I don't know what they call them over here. In Canada, in the United States, we call them lunch and learns. We take up everyone's lunchtime, feed them food, and come in and teach them things. I personally am not a fan of those because people are just coming to eat. No one's coming to learn. Then there's two other schools of thought. You take work time out, and so everyone's still getting paid, and for Friday afternoon or Monday morning or whatever, a couple hours, pick a topic, do it that way. Or one that, believe it or not, that I've talked to other people about, and I've tried it in the past, and it actually works really well, is you make an actual training schedule, and it's kind of almost like a little university that your company puts on, but it's not during work hours. It's right after work for about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's volunteer. So if anyone wants to come in and learn and advance, but the key is, yes, it's volunteer, but there's incentives. Like, oh, hey, in a year you might get an extra 1% on your paycheck if you attend all of these things, or if you want to go to a conference, we'd be more willing to send this to you if you've attended X numbers of training. So there's a few ways you can do it. You can just make it mandatory and tell everyone to come and hope that they learn, or bribe them with food and hope they learn, or look at their better interest and go, do you want to learn? And then hopefully they come and they learn.
Is my mic? JJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about growing from one BIM person to many?
It's not only about how the practice addresses it, but also what is the appetite coming from people, because it seems like people don't understand that they will learn something. That's why you have to feed them, right? You have to provide food, because if not for that, they won't come. And there is a free knowledge offered by the practice for them. So it's also some misunderstanding of what you're doing here. If you want to learn something new, just come, no matter if the food is there or not. But that's the reality, right? Grown-ups like cookies or sandwiches, which is fair understood. But yeah, on the other hand, the best way to learn, I believe, and especially it goes along with the software, is on the project basis. So giving tasks, as you've mentioned, right, Jason? Giving tasks to people who like it, but equally maybe assisted by someone who doesn't like it because they don't know. It's usually how we perceive things, right? We say something is stupid because we don't know it. And then as we become experts in some particular aspect, we start to like it and understand it. So this is how we promote the culture in EPR as well. I mean, teaching people by not doing for them, but by teaching them on a daily basis on projects. There is a statement in the job description, by the way, saying that the BIM coordinator is there to help with the complex families, right? Creation. What is help and what is complex? There are different skill levels. And does it mean to help? Does it mean to, I don't know, create hundreds of different families for you? Or does it mean sit next to you and help you create first 5 so you can do another 95, right? So I think it needs to be treated somehow softly.
I also have a comment, but you can go, and then I'll go.
Training in any company isn't painless, because with all due respect to any accountants in the room, you normally find the accountant is the person that makes the decision, and it comes down to one thing: return on investment. Will they spend the money to train JJ, who's, when he gets trained, is going to leave? And that's the old adage you'll hear. So how do you take the pain out of training? Is measure the benefits at each side, not just for the trainee, but also for the company. And then come together with a solution that's unique to your company, because nobody knows your company better than you. Some of the dinosaurs that may be in charge and the younger voices are trying to get through. I mentioned it earlier when I was giving my talk. How do you get through the noise? There are naysayers in every sector. So you have to come up with a training mechanism that's going to cost the company, but you're going to show the rewards. So you need to show both sides of the coin. As Jason here said, you've got to make it painless and you've got to make it fun. It's a risk and reward. So how do you balance the risk and the reward? It's not just about the free lunch. It's about giving them more vocational mobility, giving them better training, and then measure the training against the salary improvements they're going to get. So there's an obvious benefit to the employee, and there's also a big benefit to the company, because once you're BIM and BIM trained, something we didn't mention is, especially in the UK, there are contracts you can't go for unless you have a BIM qualification in the team. So you need to measure the monetary and the non-monetary benefits and show the company, say, right, we're at this level. We can't go for these contracts until we get sufficient BIM people in. So it's opening a whole new horizon. So don't look on it just as about people. You've got to measure the full 360. Have a read at the article in the magazine. It's about all of the skills energy equation, measuring it across everything. Free lunches, benefits, salary improvements, greater company benefits, whatever. But you've got to also balance it with that work-life skills balance. And don't put too much of a load on the company or on the employee. It's no simple answer, but Disney got it right with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Whistle while you work.
So as an e-training partner, we work with companies all around the world who are looking to implement BIM programs. I just met with someone this week who said, I'm the only person who knows how to do BIM, but we're getting excited and we want to know how to do these things. And then I work with companies that are so incredibly busy working on projects all the time, but they know that they're bringing people on and just throwing them at jobs, and it's cruel. You have to really create a culture of learning. And a lot of times I talk with customers about what's in it for the C-suite, what's in it for management, and what's in it for the employees. It has to be a triple win. And we have ideas about how to do that. It doesn't happen overnight. Just like anything, the training, whether it's global e-training, whether it's a book in a library, that's just the tool. You'll still need the people and the communication, and you need the commitment to adopt that tool. One of the things that's been alluded to here, Jason mentioned it, just get out of the way and let me do it. That was my father's favorite way of teaching. No one learns that way, and they just retain that information in their head. So with global e-training as an example, with the plugin, you have to say to people, oh, that's an interesting problem you're facing. Did you try using the plugin? Did you look, in the resources available to you? Rather than your instinctual sort of like superhero thing of just giving them the answer. But it does take time, for sure. Next question.
I think you guys touched on it already. Just in my experience, I come from an engineering practice, but more senior staff or more experienced staff often have a resistance to BIM, and they're happy in the process they've worked through to this day. So it's really incentivizing that staff. How do you go about incentivizing people that are happy with what they're doing, they're happy with how they're doing it, and then you're throwing BIM at them and telling them, we need to go down this route. It's kind of get on with it, or nearly you're pushing them out. How do you find you've managed that with kind of the more experienced staff?
You should Who wants to answer that one?
More experienced staff present the same barriers as the least experienced, only that's different side of the scale. And again, it's about getting through that barrier. Because somebody has a certificate or somebody's been there for 20 years, they see this as they're the best. It's exactly the same in human relations. You go back to your days in school, your career choice, whether you realize or not, was almost predicted on the teachers that you liked and then ultimately the courses that you liked, because they had a way of engaging with you. I mentioned in my presentation, everybody's unique. You got to find that way of engaging, and it's not just about reward, about risk. It's giving people that vision, the share of that vision. You see it in some of the financial companies where there's a reward and share benefits, different things. Different companies can devise different mechanisms. And the older ones are some of the hardest ones, I'll agree with you, to try and crack that nut. Because they've been here that long. Don't forget the second least innovative sector in the economy is construction. Second only to agriculture, and there's not much of a gap between the two of them. And part of that is that resistance to change, that old style school of thinking, the simple monetary way of measuring results. And it's getting beyond that. It's looking beyond that very simple thing. And a series of articles we're writing within the Arise project at the minute with Anna Morena there and ourselves. It's the currency of skills. Don't just measure skills in pure pounds, shillings, pence, euros, dollars, whatever. They have a carbon footprint value. They have an environmental value. They have a social value. So skills have more benefits than just the return on investment money-wise. It's about predicting that and getting that. If you're in a company and there's a 65-year-old boss above you, that's not just a glass ceiling, that's reinforced, right? And that's difficult. We all be there. We've all seen it. But there are different ways of circumnavigating that and making sure you get the right result. It might take longer time, it might take different efforts, or it may take different strategies. But ultimately, the reason you're here today, the reason we're all here today is construction has to change. Construction must evolve. Part of the problems in construction are of our own making. The skill shortage, the dirty attitude people think in construction. It's a job for people without education. If you fail your exams, get a job on a building site. It's the same in engineering. And that perception of construction must change, because construction has to move ahead, become leaner, become exactly as we said earlier on, the efficiencies at every level.
You're making a really good point, is that a lot of barriers to learning is vulnerability. And when we have a position of defensiveness, we're not going to be very open to learn. I personally, one of the reasons that I get so excited about self-paced online learning is because you're not in a classroom where your perceived reputation at the company is on the line. If I'm in a classroom and I think that everyone in the company thinks I'm an expert, I'm never going to ask a vulnerable question. And so I'm not going to learn. And so when you provide people with self-paced learning, where they can move as quickly as they want to, they can go in backwards order if they want. Sometimes I tell people, hey, tell your superstars to go in and just take the quizzes. Just tell them to challenge all the tests. And frankly, if they pass all the tests, great. You know they know everything. But what a person like that will do is if they fail a test, then they'll go, oh, maybe I should just check out this video real quick, or maybe I'll just try that. Because there's not that perception that they're failing in front of people. And so that's some of the ways that we coach our clients to work with some of the folks that seem resistant to learning, because it's often about the perception, the ego, the public loss of faith.
May I kindly disagree?
You can. Absolutely.
That's what the panel is for.
I love it.
Well, in my opinion, or to my way of thinking, it's all in hands of the trainer. So the first thing you do when approaching the training as a trainer, you need to define who the audience is or who you work with. If I am to talk to a bunch of directors, I know my message needs to be quick and straight to the point about the benefits for the business. If I am talking to architectural assistants, I know the appetite is for completely something else. So it's ultimately about the trainers. And talking about that, this is one of the reasons I put a lot of effort in recruitment to check their training skills. So I make sure that those guys hired to the BIM team are those unique pink ones with not only the technical expertise in Navisworks, Revit, and God knows what Dynamo, but they are also approachable guys who know how to train people. And if not, then it's my role to take them out of their comfort zones and build the skill set that they become trainers. So that's why I offer, for example, in the team, the data storytelling training for them, right? The train the trainer training.
I think that's an interesting point that you're making, because a lot of people, when they hear the word train the trainer, they think they're going to teach them the Revit skills, and then those people are going to teach those Revit skills, like trickle down. But really good train the trainer is the soft skills, it's the leadership skills, it's the communication skills. One of the areas that we see particularly in construction, we were talking about it this morning in our podcast, is you see a lot of people moving that show aptitude and they have some skills, so they get moved out of the field into leadership, but they've never taken they don't actually have those skills. They were just like the best welder. They were the best welder and they know the most about welding, but they don't actually know how to manage people. And so making sure that your BIM training program includes leadership training, includes communication training, it's really critical.
So you need to know what sandwiches to order for particular groups.
Yes, you need to know if some people prefer triangular sandwiches.
That's actually a method of training, right? Making jokes from time to time so people can understand the value of the meeting.
Did you ask people at lunch today, JJ, which sandwich was their favorite?
I didn't. Sorry. Failed as a trainer.
We have 3 minutes left. Does anyone have another question? Over here.
As that's gone over, one of the worst things ever, and this is speaking to the people that are looking to invoke training, family-owned construction companies. We've all been there and worked on those sites.
We're ready for your question.
Okay, I will try to formulate this correctly. I come from an engineering company. We do consultancy, free. I come from Denmark. And in Denmark, we have this issue, or so to call it, a gap. We have some very talented engineers that design complex systems. I work within the MIP industry. But they are very talented in BIM, or so they think. So we also have a lot of BIM designers at the team that know exactly what data means and how we design our data models, the information models, according to the requirements. So the gap is there where the engineers say, oh, of course I'm not going to tell anybody how to do this, I'll go and model it myself. And of course they do this, but focusing on the model, on the geometry. And either it's way too detailed, or it's not detailed enough. So we have these discussions, and we constantly have these discussions that we need to train them. And we need to make like a behavioral, how they can navigate in this, because we want their expertise, we want them to do this right, but right the first time. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Let's start with Jason, because Jason spoke of this morning, and then we'll go to JJ, and then I think we might be out of time.
What did I say? Did I say something smart?
Yeah, put the mic to your mouth.
Sorry.
So I can hear you.
Yeah, we deal with, especially on the structural engineering side, we deal with that all the time with engineers that know engineering and can design. And then, then you have your CAD operators and, your Revit users that now they know what piece of data needs to go where, how much data. What we've done in the past is we pair them up. We make them little design teams, and they work together. The engineer doesn't go in the model by him or herself because it's scary. And then the structural technologist doesn't get to design by themselves because that's outright scary as well. So between the two of them, one working in the model, one working on the design, it usually comes out right. 9 times out of 10. And then over time, they trade their skill set. The senior engineers' years of experience wears off on the junior person, but then the junior person's newfound love of the technology wears off on the engineer. And so it's kind of over-the-shoulder training, but it's more mentorship. It's a little bit of both.
Sounds like partnership to me.
If you have a chance to do that, that's something that you could try. If not, you just have to tell them, no, you're not allowed to touch the model. But that usually never works.
JJ, what do you have to say real quick?
Just 1 second. The person I would put you in touch with is Dr. James Hardy, Copenhagen School of Design, in your own country. They have done those links. James is originally from Carrickmacross. He's over in Copenhagen 25 years. He works with us on the projects, and he's an expert at that partnerships you talked about. Because Copenhagen have put together the BIM training, not within one instruction, but linking them.
You're finished? Yeah. JJ's going to choreograph us to the end of our chat today. So thanks, everyone. It is a tea time break, so please feel free to come and chat with us all to continue these conversations. We appreciate you all attending and participating today and taking us into overtime. Yes.